Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Emily and today we're doing my 2023 favorites. I have quite a few. I think there's probably like 16 maybe. I could be wrong. There's no particular order until we get, I think, to like the top 5 or the top 3. I have not prepared myself. So I have my computer here. It's got my list on it and I will just pop pictures up when we get to it. I'm not going to go into any detail for them. I just want to tell you guys what my favorite books were of 2023, and right now I think it's the 28th. I don't foresee myself having any more favorites for the year, so that's why I'm doing this now. But we are going to start off with my favorite manga. I think one of the only mangas I read this month, and that was the entirety of the Demon Slayer series. I love the anime so much, and I really enjoyed reading the manga for this, so that was definitely a new favorite this year. So happy I read that, and I kind of think I might do a reread of it next year. Next, I'd like to talk about Tattered Stars by Catherine Cowles. Catherine Cowles has become one of my favorite contemporary romantic suspense authors. I found her through Jess from Peace Love Books, and I have just fallen in love with everything she has written that I've read so far. And I just can't wait to get to more of her backlist and anything else that she has coming out new. So this was definitely a new favorite author, and I have a bunch of new favorite books also, but this is the first book in the Tattered Stars series, and that was why this one was on here. Next, I have Fear the Flames by Olivia Darling. I could have that completely wrong, but anyway, this is a indie published fantasy romance book, and I read, and it was getting kind of hyped up, and I'm so glad I read it because it was really good. Unfortunately, we don't get to the dragons until like the later half, but I did really enjoy like the found family, the friendships, and the romance that happened in this. I'm very excited to see what the next book holds, but this one was definitely a favorite this year. Next, I have To Hunt a Demon King, and you're going to see like a theme here. There's a lot of fantasy romance or romance, not a whole lot of other ones, but there are a couple. But To Hunt a Demon King, this is like witches meets Little Red Riding Hood and demons, and it's just really good. It's very underrated, but I had a really good time with the first book. I mean, it's not the best thing written, but it was definitely fun and entertaining, and I really enjoyed it. Then I have What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Woods. I listened to this as an audiobook and I followed along on the ebook, but I really enjoyed this. I know a lot of people don't really like this series, but I had a good time with the first book and I plan on continuing on with this, but I'm so glad that I got to this. I'm so glad I got to all of these books, but I really don't know what else to say as I'm going through these. These were all just favorites of the year. Like, I had plenty of 5-star reads, but these are the only 5-star ones that like I feel like really stuck with me and have me wanting to reread them. So that is why these 5 stars made it onto my favorites list and other ones haven't. Next, I have Liars Like Us by J.T. Geisinger. This book was so funny. I laughed out loud so many times with this book. The banter between the characters and like the things that happen, I just really enjoyed. And I have read another book by this author, but I was hesitant going into this one, but I'm so glad that I decided to do it anyway because it was so good. It was so well written, and I just loved it. The characters were great. The relationship was great, and I can't wait to read the next books. Next, I have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, I think. Yeah. I read this in February, so quite a bit ago, but I still think about this book because it has to deal with the main character, Naomi. She comes to town because her sister calls her Enid, her twin sister, but when she shows up, everyone thinks she's the twin sister and they automatically hate her. So the sister's like, okay, my sister has done some damage here. And then in pops a niece that she didn't know she had, and then this gruff, grumpy sunshine relationship with this guy. And it was just so good. And I don't know if I'm gonna like the next one, but I'm definitely dying for the third one in the series. But this one was so good, and I was so glad that I read this in February around Valentine's Day because it was just a perfect romance to read in February. So I'm happy that I read that, and I did read it in a vlog, so that was nice to have at least a favorite in a vlog. So I'm very happy about that. Next, I have Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue. I read this one. I've heard quite a bit good things about it, but like not so much for the second one. And I think the third one just came out this year. I do have all three, but I've only read the first one. And this was really good. This was a good, dark, like, cult-like book, sort of. And this demon, like, it was so good. And I loved Leon so much. And I just need more. And some of the other demons in here, like, I want to know more about, and their stories are coming up in the next two books, so I really want to continue on. But this one was so good, so dark and atmospheric and perfect for fall time, so I love anytime I can find a really good fall book, and this was one of them. The next two I have are the only two, like, horror / mystery thriller books on this list, and the first one is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. I have never read a book by this author until this book, and I loved it. I listened to the audiobook, and I just was obsessed with it. It was so good. It was very atmospheric, and I enjoyed the different timelines and the plot twists, and everything was just so good. And it's not very often that I do find a 5-star like mystery thriller, so for this to happen, not once but like twice, I am just so happy that I got to these books, and I'm so glad that I quit pushing them off. So there's that, but these have made it to my favorites, and I am super happy about it. The next one is The Nightmare Man by, I can't remember the name, but the cover is going to be right here. I loved this book. It was so unique, using, like, I don't even want to say because it was so unique and different. Let's just say it has to deal with this guy who writes books, and his horror books kind of come true, like the things that happen in them, and there's just like this whole thing around it, and I absolutely adored this book, like so much so that I know I'm going to be rereading it next October, so I'm happy I have the audiobook. But this was so good, and I highly recommend this book for anyone, honestly. I mean, there are some things that happen to it, but if you like horror mystery thriller books, you should really check this one out. So good. Okay, so I'm at the top 6, and I'm looking at them, and I'm having a hard time deciding what's gonna go in 6, because I know I said like the top 3, but I think we're gonna do like the top 5, or like the top 6 are like the main ones that are in an order. So I think first I'm gonna have to go with Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. This is an adult high fantasy series. The books get longer as they go, but I really enjoyed this. This is like a boy and his dragon kind of trope, and I think it was inspired by Aragon, which I want to read, but I have watched the movie for that, so I hope, like, I don't remember too much for it. Anyway, Of Blood and Fire, super good. Loved the dragon, loved the male friendships in this, and like the things they had to go through, and like the tragedies and all the deaths, and it was so good. And seeing like different things, and like there's like a novella, so you get to see things that happened before, and I don't know, it left me with a lot of questions, but at the same time I wanted to keep reading to find out those questions. But the books are just so big, and I kind of want to wait for the whole series to be out before I binge the series, because that's what I really want to do. So I don't know, I just really enjoyed this book, and if you haven't read it yet and you love adult high epic fantasy, what are you doing? You're sleeping on this book. Next, I have another fantasy series, and that is The Beast Hunters by Christer Lend. I read this for another video, something with self-published fantasy, I believe, but this one really surprised me. I went into it with low expectations, but I really did enjoy like the way the premise sounded. In this one, we have so many like unique creatures, and then there's like the beast hunters. This girl ends up getting saved by the beast hunters, and she kind of tags along with them, and she kind of helps them with this mystery that happens in this town. And like, it was just so good, and it kind of felt like a found family, and there were so many different twists. This was just fun. This was such a fun read, and I really want to reread it. I tried to reread it at the beginning of this month, but I wasn't quite feeling it. I was feeling more like romance books, which has been my life in 2023, romance books or fantasy romance. Like, that's all I've wanted to read, but I want to be able to give this one the proper, like, attention when I do read it. So when I am in that mood again to read this kind of stuff, I'm going to be jumping right on this series to read the rest, because I absolutely enjoyed this and I need more. Okay, so I have 4 books left, and in the 4th spot is going to be Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. This book really surprised me. For the longest time, I did not want to pick it up, but I've heard so many good things about it, and I have just been like diving into dark romance this year, more so than I normally do, and I loved this. I read it in one sitting the first time, and then I reread it to read the second book. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Cannot praise this book enough. There are tons of trigger warnings, but my god, this was so good. And like Zaid, wow, all the book boyfriends I found this year, this was one of them, and I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the first one, I think, more than the second one a little bit, but I still like didn't not love the second book, so there's that. But I loved Haunting Adeline, and I really can't wait to get to more books by this author. So that was place number 4. Now we're getting into the top 3, and I'm scared. So coming in 3rd place, I am going to be putting From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I read the first 2 books, and I got like 60-something% into the 3rd book and realized that I wanted to stop and wait for more books to be out, because this is going to be like, it's very long, because we have this series and then we have the like prequel series that you read like intermittently with them. But I loved From Blood and Ash. It was so good. The plot twist, even though I feel like I kind of got spoiled a little bit, so I knew what was coming a little bit, but I absolutely love this. Jennifer L. Armentrout writes such good books and romance, and I will forever love her books and always try any new series she writes. And I'm so happy that I got to this one, because now I know it's a new favorite and I definitely want to continue on with it. So that is place number 3. Now we're moving into 2nd and 1st. Oh god, this is really hard. I feel like if I could tie 2 books, these would be them. And I don't know if this is going to be like an unpopular opinion with some people, but in place 2, I am going to put Manacled by Sen-Lin Yu. This is a fan fiction of Draco and Hermione, and it's like if you took The Handmaid's Tale and mashed it in with Draco and Hermione if the Dark Lord won. And it was so good. It was so long. I feel like on mine it said it was like 800 and something pages, but I've definitely seen where it has been like 1,000 pages, so I don't really know what the page count is. But I read it. I listened to the audiobook as I was following along, and it was the best experience ever. This book made me sob so hard in so many places, and I was obsessed with this. I started printing it out and putting it in page protectors in a binder, and I had to stop because I lost all my black ink. And then I got a new printer, and I just haven't done it yet to finish like what I had printed, but oh my god, that's gonna happen in 2024. I love this. Definitely want to reread this. It was so good, and this was the first fan fiction I've ever read, and I'm just so happy I did. And it was not ever a couple that I ever thought I would want to see together, but I can't not see it now. And anytime I read or watch Harry Potter now, all I'm gonna think about is this book. So there's that. It crushed me emotionally, but in such a good way, and it was so good. And oh god. Okay, so that was place number 2, and everyone probably knows what a lot of people's place number 1 is going to be. And of course that spot goes to Fourth Wing. I will pull it out. So spot number 1 goes to Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I was so happy that I had the sprayed stenciled edges, whatever. I loved this book. I read it in one sitting. There's a character death in here that absolutely made me bawl. So much so that I had to go back to a scene up until the big fight scene, and I had to re-listen to it right after because I sobbed so hard. And this one, the dragons and the humor and the banter and the angst and the enemies to lovers and just the fighting and the training and the school, and this was so good. This was such an unexpected favorite book this year. And I did read Iron Flame, and I will say I didn't enjoy Iron Flame as much as Fourth Wing, but I still gave it 5 stars also. But this one blew it out of the park. It's been a long time since I've read a really good first book to a series, and this is like the first set of dragons that I feel like I absolutely enjoy because they can communicate, and oh god, it was so good, and I am so happy, and I just can't wait for more to come out in the series. I think it's going to be a 5-book series, but there's only 2 out, and I think the 3rd one's supposed to come out in like December of next year, and I cannot wait that long. The thought of having to physically wait that long to read the next book in the series is killing me. So anyway, that was my top book for the year. I am really happy with all my favorites of the year, and I just can't wait to see what next year holds, but these are my favorites for the year, and I definitely want to add the ones that I don't own physically to my shelves, so I'm going to be trying to work on that next year. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that if you read some of these books that they were your favorites also. So yeah, that was everything on my favorites list of 2023. I hope you enjoyed. Like it down below if you did. Comment letting me know what your top favorite book was of the year, and if any of the ones on my list were also on your list. And subscribe if you want to. I'd greatly appreciate it. I think as of right now, I am only 2 subscribers away from reaching my 500 goal for the year. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing down below. I would greatly appreciate it. And until my next video, I will see you guys again soon. Bye!